Nature has a pretty simple word for those who are unable to, or unwilling to adapt to change. And the word is extinct. And I think it goes as much for the individual as it does for the species. And of course, the pandemic is calling on us to adapt, all right, which is really, in a sense, just another way of saying to grow, all right? So some of you may be familiar with a fellow named Abraham Maslow, all right? Maslow is the psychologist who gave us the hierarchy of needs pyramid, okay? At the bottom, food, clothing, and shelter. Above that, belonging to a tribe, etc. At the very top, self-actualization, all right? Although right before Maslow died, actually, he added a new pinnacle to that pyramid. He called it self-transcendence. But this is what he said about the prior pinnacle, self-actualization. He said that self-actualizing types, okay, so these would be the people who tend to fulfill their potential. They also tend to be the kind of people who make the growth choice over the fear choice routinely, all right, routinely. But the mythologist Joseph Campbell, who's another one of my heroes, and who gave us the hero's journey, said that phase one of responding to a calling, which is, of course, is the beginning of any hero's or heroine's journey. Phase one of responding to a calling, he said, is running from it, okay? Fear over growth, okay? So it's resistance is phase one. It's fear, it's self-doubt, maybe even anger at having your boat rocked, which of course callings specialize in, all right? Though it is possible that the degree of resistance you yourself might have to whatever this pandemic is calling for from you might actually be proportionate to the amount of power and growth that's waiting to be unleashed once, of course, the no turns into a yes, all right? And we, of course, are, with the pandemic, are getting an AP class, all right, a graduate level class in boat rocking, okay? As well as in adaptation. And of course, humans have proven themselves actually to be very, very good at adaptation, okay? So whenever a vaccine finally shows up for the coronavirus, it is going to be based on the following wisdom, which is really the basis of the entire science of immunology. And that is that you introduce a little bit of chaos into the system to strengthen it, okay? You shake it up for the sake of helping it evolve, to grow and evolve, all right? It's interesting to me that in the central creation story in the Western canon, which of course is Genesis, chaos with a capital C is described as the condition of the earth before it was formed, okay? So what I take that to mean is that chaos precedes creation. Chaos precedes creation. And if we deny ourselves the one, we're going to deny ourselves the other, all right? Reminds me of something the comedian Red Fox once said. He said, heroes are not born, they're cornered. And I think that's very appropriate to all this. So one way to look at the pandemic, in fact, one of the purposes I think that it can serve is exploring how your own life might grow and evolve as a result of it, okay? How the chaos, if you will, in the coronavirus, what it may be calling for from you, whether this is creatively or professionally, interpersonally, of course, spiritually, what it's calling for from you. So this is really an opportunity to take an inventory, okay, to sort of step outside and look back in through the shop window at your own life, all right? How are you responding to this event, right? What are you learning about yourself? What are you discovering? What course corrections are being called for? What silver linings are showing up, okay? And of course, you know, what do you want your new normal to look like once the pandemic is in the rearview mirror, all right? So where, in other words, are growth and creation showing up, being evoked by this unprecedented event, or of course provoked, as the case may be. And I'm going to encourage you to consider these kind of questions in a personal context, not a planetary context. All right. So this is not so much what is this event calling for from us, from humanity, which of course is a great question, but what is it calling for from you personally? All right. And to consider it not even so much from a philosophical point of view, like what is the ultimate purpose of this event, or how might this be a reset for humanity, but how might it be a reset for you personally? Okay. So let me give you some examples of the kind of questions that I've been posing to myself throughout all this, and in fact, been teaching in the online classes that I've now begun to teach. Let me give you, here's one example. Science tells us that an asteroid ushered out the dinosaurs and gave the mammals underfoot, including our forebears, a shot at prominence, okay? So to use that as an analogy, once the dinosaurs, if you will, of the status quo are sidelined, which of course they are for most of us and have been, parts of us that are normally overshadowed are going to have a chance to come out into the light. So what are those? So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who owns a retail business, and he said that because he doesn't have any customers coming through the store anymore, though he's in the store regularly doing the online part of his business, he doesn't have any customers coming through. But because of that, he's discovered that this is a huge relief after all these years. And he's more of an introvert than he ever knew. All right. And in fact, his sense of identity and his reputation as Mr. Social doesn't actually fit him anymore. And now he's taking some time to explore this more introverted side of himself. Okay. So what might you be discovering? Or maybe, like I said, rediscovering about yourself during all of this? Here's another question. Shakespeare wrote Macbeth, King Lear, and Antony and Cleopatra during a plague. Sir Isaac Newton discovered gravity and invented calculus while in quarantine for the bubonic plague. And at the risk of putting myself into the same sentence with Sir Isaac Newton and William Shakespeare, I myself have found that this event has been one of the best things to happen to my writing in years, because it's given me a tremendous focus and a tremendously compelling, juicy subject to sink my teeth into. All right. So not to diminish the very real suffering that a lot of people have been experiencing as a result of this event, it's possible that the sudden disruption in our daily routines, and of course the isolation perhaps, may actually prove to be a boon to our creativity and inventiveness and resourcefulness and imaginations in ways that would not have happened otherwise. Okay, so another question I've been noodling around in is, where is creativity showing up? Right? Where is creativity showing up in my own life? You know, I'm not saying you're necessarily going to discover any fundamental laws of the universe, you know, or write the next Macbeth, but you might just finish that novel that you've been daring and double daring yourself to write for ever, You know, you might take up the guitar again. You might start a garden. You might finally get around to some of those, you know, home improvement projects that you've been sticking on the back burner in deference to the daily grind. So another question to consider is, however modest, where has creativity started to show up in your life as a result of this event? Where has that shown up? And here's one more question to consider. Some people think that the pandemic is just a biological event. It's just an organism wanting to reproduce, okay? There's no ultimate purpose. There's no grand purpose. There's no nature sending us to our rooms to think about what we've done, all right? Which is, of course, one of the memes that's been making the rounds since March. This is, in other words, to these people, this is just predation, okay? This is not punishment, right? Then there's the other people. People who believe genuinely that this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, okay? This is the beginning of the great turning, all right? The new consciousness, the long hungered for reset for humanity, all right? So to what, and certainly there's plenty of opportunities in this event for the spiritual optimists, you know, lots of lessons to be had in unity and interconnectedness and compassion and service and non-attachment, okay? So to whatever degree you resonate to the second line of thinking, in other words, that there may be a grander purpose in this event, maybe even a lesson, what would that be for you? Again, not for humanity, but if this event has come to teach you something, what would that be?